Dick Cheney died on November the 3rd, 2025, at age 84. Most people remember him for Iraq, for torture policies, for aggressive military power. But there is something else, something that explains what's happening right now in Central Asia. Back when Cheney ran Halliburton, the world's second largest oil service company from 1995 to 2000, he said something revealing. I can't think of a time when we have had a region emerge as suddenly to become as strategically significant as the Caspian. The good Lord didn't see fit to put oil and gas only where there are democratically elected regimes friendly to the United States. Occasionally, we have to operate in places where, all things considered, one would not normally choose to go. But we go where the business is. He valued the Caspian region's resources at $4 trillion. His goal was simple: break Russia's control over energy transportation, secure Western access to oil and gas. That strategy didn't die with him. It just changed tactics. Today, America faces a problem that Cheney never had to solve. BRICS is rising fast. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, and Indonesia. The numbers tell the story. BRICS controls 36% of global GDP in purchasing power parity terms. It's bigger than the G7. 11 nations represent 46% of the global population, nearly 4 billion people. They hold more foreign exchange reserves than the US and Europe combined. They control 40% of global oil production. They possess 32% of natural gas reserves. President Trump said in July 2025 that BRICS is fading out fast. The data says otherwise. Here is what most people miss. BRICS isn't just about economics. They are building something bigger, a post-dollar financial system. China and Russia now trade mostly in yuan and rubles. India buys oil from Russia and Iran using rupees. Brazil and China are creating real-time payment systems in local currencies. The dollar's share of global reserves dropped from 71% in 2000 to 58% today. That's a massive shift. Iran joined BRICS in 2024. This matters more than you think. Iran has the second largest natural gas reserves on Earth, fourth largest in oil. They graduate 230,000 STEM engineers every year. They lead in nanotechnology, aerospace, nuclear science, and drone technology. They also connect Central Asia, the Persian Gulf, and Europe. Perfect position for alternative trade routes. The US response came fast. 3 moves, all connected. Follow me, because they look disconnected, but they are not. Move 1. The Genius Act. Trump signed it in July 2025. The law forces stablecoin companies to back their coins with 100% liquid reserves, but not just any reserves, US dollars or short-term treasuries only. This creates artificial demand for US debt. It props up the dollar as the global reserve currency. There is a darker angle here. Russian advisor Anton Kobyakov revealed Washington's real plan: push everyone into crypto, then devalue the huge US debt held in stablecoins. Trump himself hinted at this. He talked about paying debt holders with a little crypto check. Move 2. Pardoning Changpeng Zhao. CZ founded Binance. He was jailed for laundering $900 million. Trump pardoned him on October 23, 2025. Ask yourself, why pardon a convicted money launderer right now? CZ immediately pivoted east. He visited Kyrgyzstan in April 2024, praised its strategic location and young population. Binance agreed to help create a crypto framework there, maybe even a digital sum. Binance launched in Uzbekistan by January 2025. They signed deals with Kazakhstan in 2022. The pattern is clear. The US freed CZ to digitize Central Asia, create financial dependency in Russia's and China's backyard. Move 3. The C5+1 summit. But before we continue, a quick word. We are a small operation, no corporate backing, no lobbying money. We depend on viewers like you. If this matters to you, support us, subscribe, share, contribute if you can. That's how we stay independent. And now, back to the story. On November 6, 2025, Trump hosted 5 Central Asian leaders in Washington: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. The image was powerful. These leaders sitting with Trump as equals, not as independent post-Soviet states. Uzbek President Mirziyoyev called Trump the president of the world, said he stopped 8 wars. Kazakh President Tokayev echoed, "You are the great leader, sent by heaven." The flattery was strategic, and it worked. But look what was really happening. Kazakhstan secured $17 billion in new deals. They already received over $100 billion in total US investment. They produce 40% of the world's uranium. They supply 25% of America's uranium demand. The enrichment, by the way, is still made in Russia. Uzbekistan pledged $100 billion in US investments over the next decade, over $12 billion for transport alone. No details on how Tashkent will find that money, but the promise was made. Tajikistan ranks second globally in antimony production. 97% of their US exports are antimony. This isn't aid, it's strategic acquisition of critical minerals: uranium, copper, gold, rare earths. The Abraham Accords signing matters here. It's part of a tech metal deal. The US and Israel scrambling to bypass China's rare earth restrictions. This wasn't symbolic. It was a consolidation, pulling Kazakhstan into the US sphere, away from Iran. But here is the contradiction. Kazakhstan is a full SCO member, a BRICS partner, deep in Belt and Road, part of the Eurasian Economic Union. They do most of their business with China and Russia in Russian. Trump seems set on blowing up BRICS and SCO from the inside. But the real prize was already secured 2 months earlier. August 2025, Trump mediated a peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The agreement created the Zangezur Corridor. It links Azerbaijan's mainland to its Nakhchivan exclave through Armenia. They named it TRIPP, Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. Here is the critical part. The US got exclusive development rights for 99 years. They will sublease to private companies for rail, pipelines, and roads. A US official admitted the main goal: reduce the influence of Iran, Russia, and China. Senator Steve Daines said it clearly. The deal lets energy and minerals bypass Russia and China. Think about that. A corridor named after a US president, controlled for nearly a century, running through someone else's territory. The US replaced Russia as the main mediator in the region. Russia's OSCE Minsk group was pushed aside. The reaction was immediate and hostile. Iran's supreme leader advisor, Ali Akbar Velayati, attacked the project. He said TRIPP aims to sever Iran's link with the Caucasus, to impose a land blockade on Iran and Russia. He warned the corridor could become a graveyard for Trump's mercenaries. Russia's foreign ministry criticized it as another attempt to sideline them. Analyst Karen Igitian saw the bigger threat. US control could hurt the international North-South transport corridor. It could let America supply weapons to Central Asia without oversight. Back in August, we interviewed Scott Ritter about the Zangezur Corridor. Despite his cautious optimism about the peace deal, he raised concerns about long-term stability, about whether regional powers would accept being cut out. Turns out he was right to worry. If the US controls the Zangezur Corridor, how will that affect China's Belt and Road, Russia's energy routes, and Iran's role as a trade bridge?
Well, it depends how we define U.S. control. Are we talking about a military occupation? There's no military base there. The U.S. isn't building a military base, at least that I'm aware of. We're talking about a U.S. security guarantee for a stretch of highway, 46 kilometers long. It's a highway. There will be bridges over that highway. And so I don't see this as a wall blocking off transport. It's, of course, something that Russia and China both have to be concerned about because it brings in an additional partner. But I think the U.S. isn't in a position to leverage security guarantees for the Zangezur Corridor into using it as a wall to block the Russian north-south corridor or block the Chinese New Silk Road through belts and roads. I do think it's possible for Russia and China to continue working, but that's what we're talking about physically. It's more importantly is what does the Zangezur Corridor represent politically? What is the mood of Armenia? What is the mood of Azerbaijan? Because the Zangezur Corridor isn't designed to facilitate north-south transit. It's designed to facilitate a trade route going from Turkey through Azerbaijan into Central Asia. And the Turks want to make this trade route the dominant trade route in the region, a competitor to the north-south and to the belts and roads. And as long as it's left as purely economic competition, I think the Russians and the Chinese would do well. If the Turks decide to turn it into something more about regional security and add a military dimension, now we have the possibility of a regional war. And that's something that nobody should want.
How will a US foothold in the South Caucasus change regional politics, especially for Russia-Iran cooperation against NATO?
Well, first of all, I believe that Russia's made it clear that it will not tolerate NATO expansion into the South Caucasus. Russia drew a red line at Georgia, and Russia isn't going to yield Armenia to NATO or Azerbaijan to NATO. The question now is what are Armenia and Azerbaijan willing to do? How much are they, how far are they willing to take this? I don't think Iran is in a mood to tolerate a NATO presence on its borders as well. So this is a really dangerous situation here. People should be focused on economic competition. But the second you turn this into a military competition, let me just remind you that Armenia and Azerbaijan are a long, long way from European NATO. Yes, Turkey's right there, but Turkey's in no position to go one-on-one with Russia or even fight a war with Iran. Turkey would need backing of Europe, and Europe's in no position to back it. Europe can't project meaningful power into Ukraine. How do you expect them suddenly now to project meaningful power into Azerbaijan or Armenia? If Europe wants a war, it'll be a war that they lose.
If US troops are stationed in Armenia's Sunni region, what risks does this pose for Iran and the region's security balance?
Well, the danger is that US troops then become a hostage to Armenian and Azerbaijani intrigue. And this is something that the United States should avoid at all risks. American troops should only be committed into a situation where the legitimate national security interests of the United States are at risk. To put US troops on the ground to secure an economic corridor, only to have that security be transformed into a red line to prevent Iranian response to aggression by Armenia and Azerbaijan, that means that US troops now become, the bait, and no president wants that. I would be very surprised if US troops actually appeared in the Zangezur Corridor. To me, it's something that would be done with observers, something that can be done with civilian contractors, but to actually deploy U.S. troops. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that, to me, it just seems unlikely.
From August to now, something shifted on the military side. Azerbaijan moved fast. On November 6, President Aliyev announced their military is modernizing to NATO standards. Think about the timing. The same day, Kazakhstan joined the Abraham Accords. They are bringing in Blackstone and Brookfield Asset Management, massive financial firms to fund the corridor. Blackstone manages alternative assets worldwide. Brookfield controls $1 trillion focused on transport infrastructure. Russia responded immediately. Lukoil started diverting 130,000 tons per month of Caspian crude away from Azerbaijan's Baku port to Russia's Makhachkala terminal instead. The economic retaliation began within days. But Russia and Iran aren't just reacting. They are building their own answers. The first Russian freight train to Iran just arrived. 62 containers. Moscow to Tehran through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. 9,000 kilometers in 12 days. Iran and Russia just formed a joint port consortium in Makhachkala. Their goal, 5 million tons of cargo annually across the Caspian. The North-South transport corridor is already running. Connect the dots. See the full picture. The Genius Act weaponizes crypto to save the dollar. The CZ pardon puts digital finance tools in Central Asia. The C5+1 summit locks in critical minerals and economic ties. TRIPP creates a physical corridor that bypasses BRICS members Iran and Russia. This isn't random. It's a coordinated strategy against a rising multipolar world. Further, Lukyanov called it right. America abandoned the rules-based order. Now it's just raw power. Central Asian nations face an impossible choice. They are in Russia's Commonwealth of Independent States, China's Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Organization of Turk States. Now the United States wants them too. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan are trying to balance Western money, Eastern partnerships, both at once. Uzbekistan's president wants to host the next C5+1 summit in Samarkand in 2026. But get too close to anti-BRICS projects like TRIPP and you risk becoming the next Ukraine. Here is what matters. We are watching a new order being built. Central Asia survived empires before. Mongols, Soviets, now they face something harder. A world where every gift has strings, where infrastructure is chess. The great game never ended, it just got more sophisticated. And the players in the middle aren't pawns anymore. Watch Samarkand in 2026. Watch how Iran responds. Watch whether Russia accepts being sidelined. The map of power is being redrawn right now. Most people don't even know the lines are moving. What's your take on that? Share your thoughts, and thanks for watching.